Hello and welcome to our exclusive webinar on Let's Go to Portugal, Perks of Being a European Resident. My name is Rahim Lakhani, signing in from Lisbon. I am the moderator for today's evening. We at the Lakhani Group invest in real estate and our service-focused family office dedicated in embracing values, bringing shared wealth for the beneficiaries. Before we dive into our webinar, let me do a quick temperature check. We would request you to turn your audio and video off always. Kindly keep your phones on silent mode to get the most out of this webinar. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type in the Zoom chat or on the Q&A forum. We'll have time for the question towards the end of our webinar. So let us start with our webinar by welcoming our four amazing speakers. So we have Shiraz Peer, we have Saadiya, Alexander, and Rahim today. So first panelist is Mr. Alexander Dumont dos Santos, who is a senior lawyer and investment advisor at Dumont dos Santos. Mr. Alexander completed his law studies at University of Lisbon. He also studied economics at Universidade in Lisbon and graduated in 2014 as a master in international management. Initially, he acquired professional experience as a trainee lawyer at the law firm Chiado Guerrero in 2013, where he was responsible for German clients. Since June 2016, he's worked in law firms and is responsible for tax law and international immigration law. After working in so many bigger firms, he decided to advance as an independent lawyer and started his own Dumont dos Santos related to foreign investment firm in Portugal. Over the past few years, he has been accompanying several clients in the process of enrolling in the regime of non-habitual residents in application for residence permit for investment purposes for Golden Visa and Portuguese citizenship. Internationally, he has worked extensively in the banks in Switzerland, Germany, and Austria, and has cooperated with several family offices abroad. We welcome Mr. Alexander to our webinar. We are pleased to have you.
Yes, thank you very much, Asana and Rahim, and also the whole Lakhani group for the invitation to be able to speak here at the webinar. And so just to give some insights of what are the advantages of the Portuguese golden visa. So the people ask themselves, why should they invest in the Portuguese golden visa? And this is usually the first step. So regarding this, what it enables you is to live and work in Portugal. So once you have the residence permit, and you only need to be in Portugal for 7 days. So the physical requirement to be in Portugal is of only 7 days. And this is also one of the big advantages regarding the golden visa. So what has been happening during the last year and this year is that the changes of 2022 entered in force now since January. And there have been some changes regarding real estate investments and some changes regarding the investment fund investments. So there was a restriction regarding the areas in Portugal where you are actually eligible for the Portuguese golden visa regime. And the excluded areas for this were Lisbon, Porto, and Algarve, and the Silver Coast. And the properties which were excluded from the regime were residential properties. So this means that you are still able to invest into commercial properties in these areas to be eligible for the Portuguese golden visa, or properties qualified as touristic. So you will see further in this webinar that the Lakhani Group has also one of those projects, which is very interesting and appealing to some investors, and is still eligible. And so regarding the investment funds, what happened was that the amount of investment which was required was raised. So when before the required amount was 350,000 euros, now it raised to 500,000 euros. So in practical terms, the process is the same. It's still the most efficient way of getting your Portuguese golden visa. only the amount raised now. And so that was another change which entered in force with the changes of 2022. The other change which happened was that there is one other option of the golden visa way to apply for the golden visa, which was the transfer of capital to a Portuguese bank account of 1 million euros. And now this amount raised to 1.5 million. So all the amounts went up. We don't foresee at this moment that the amounts will still continue going up in the future, but it's still a possibility. So we have been talking to some investors who actually are deciding to move forward already during this year, because they might foresee that they are afraid that the amounts will rise. So actually it's valid, but we haven't got any news on this until now. Thank you. Maybe you can. Okay. Of course, it's always interesting regarding when we talk about the golden visa, we speak about the immigration process. One side we have the immigration process, and on the other side we have the tax residency. So what the golden visa enables as one of the only programs in Europe is actually that you can get this residence permit. So you are able to invest in Portugal and to get the golden visa without being a tax resident in Portugal. And this means that because you're only obliged to stay in Portugal for 7 days per year during the validity of your residence permit, that's why, according to the Portuguese tax legislation, you will not be considered a tax resident here. And what does this enable? It enables you to actually continue your life in your home country as if nothing was. And then you have this plan B, which is the golden visa, and where after 5 years you are able to apply for the Portuguese citizenship, which is actually what the majority of the investors are looking for. Okay, they look at this as an investment. Of course, you as an investor, you want to have some yield back regarding the investment. But the main idea of the golden visa is actually to be able to apply for the Portuguese citizenship after the 5 years of having a valid residence permit. So regarding the timeline of the golden visa, it only starts counting once you get the residence permit. So the timelines before of the application, they don't count for this 5 years. This is usually a question that investors also have. And once you get to year 5, you're able to apply for the Portuguese citizenship. And this process also takes around 1 year and some months. And then you are able to get your Portuguese citizenship. And more important also, then once you have the citizenship, you will be able to pass it over to your children or family members that also applied for the golden visa program. Because usually what we see with our clients is that the idea of applying to this program, it's not only for them, but it's usually for their children, to give them access at some point to Europe, even to be able to work in Germany, Switzerland, or Austria. And to be able to do that, you would need the Portuguese citizenship, and to get the Portuguese citizenship, you need the golden visa. So it's a 7-8 year step process, which then enables you to have access, and mainly your children to have access to those countries and work there and have their career there. Another interesting thing we have here in Portugal is the non-habitual resident. So it's a regime where foreign investors, to get this regime, you will need to have a property in Portugal. So either you buy a property or you lease a property. And once you have the Portuguese address, you are actually able to apply for this regime. This regime has big advantages for investors that have their main income based on dividends. For example, if you have companies outside of Portugal, it is possible to structure the companies in a way that it's in the end it's very tax efficient for you if you live in Portugal and if you are a tax resident here as a non-habitual resident. There are some structures possible to combine with the Golden Visa. So this can be seen as an add-on on the Golden Visa program. You don't need to do this. You don't need to apply for the non-habitual resident program, but it can be interesting depending on what type of incomes you have in your home country, in the country of origin. So that's why it's also very interesting. Another point, and why Portugal has been in the news, is the cryptocurrency, because at this moment there is no regulation in Portugal regarding taxation of cryptocurrency. So it's seen as a hub or as a heaven for people that have the cryptocurrency and have some gains, and then they can just move to Portugal, change their tax residency here to Portugal, and do distributions as they wish, because it's according to the law at this moment it's not regulated. And what I have seen in the news is that actually Portugal is waiting for a European legislation to be able to bring it in force in Portugal as well. So it seems that Portugal will not be developing any legislation regarding cryptocurrency by themselves. They are just waiting to see how Europe will regulate this, and then they might think of integrating this as well. Okay. There is also another option, which is there is a startup visa option, which is interesting for entrepreneurs, interesting for people that want to actually live in Portugal and do something, because sometimes the golden visa is associated to people that just invest, but they actually don't want to have a company here or to run a business. There is the startup visa option, which is also interesting. There are some requirements regarding this visa, but there is, of course, the other side, which is when you apply for the golden visa, you only have to stay here for 7 days in Portugal. But if you apply for the startup visa, you actually have to live here. So this would be to be at least for 183 days here to be able to renew the residence permit, which is granted to you based on the startup visa. So just in very, very short steps, the startup visa, you will need to prove to show a business plan. Once you have the business plan, there is an entity which helps you to develop that business plan, and then it is at a certain point it will be approved. And then you need to have some certain number of workers to continue having this startup visa. So I mean, it's an interesting option for someone that thinks, okay, I want to move to Portugal, I really want to live there, I have a business, I want to implement it, but still the freedom that the golden visa gives you, I believe it's quite more interesting, because you can just keep on doing in your home country what you are specialized in, and have a second investment in Portugal, have a plan B to get the Portuguese citizenship for you and your family.
All right, amazing. Thank you so much, Alexander, for providing us the information about these investment programs and how Portugal could be a good opportunity for people. Just few questions about the same thing. How is Portugal different from the other countries in comparison to Golden Visa? How does the country stand out?
Yes, that's a good question. And actually, it's something that really points out the Portuguese Golden Visa, because all the other golden visa programs, they actually require you to live in the country. So when the Portuguese government decided to make as a requirement as a stay requirement only 7 days a year during the validity of your residence permit, they actually had this in mind, that the persons could stay in their home country, continue living, continue earning their money as they wish, but at the same time have this plan B for their family and their family members. And after 5 years, getting the Portuguese citizenship. So I would say there are two main points which are really strong points of the Portuguese Golden Visa program. One is the low stay requirements in Portugal, and the other is that you actually don't need to be a tax resident here, because if you live longer than the 183 days in the other countries, you will be considered a tax resident there, and then you will have to do a tax return there and pay taxes in those countries. So in Portugal, this is not the case. And actually, it's a very unique system of Golden Visa here.
Interesting. And now that you have touched based upon the tax bracket, Saadiya has also asked another question about if you can clarify global tax rate if any post-citizenship.
Sorry?
I think Saadiya has also asked a question about the global tax rate after the person has received the citizenship.
Okay, so even after receiving the Portuguese citizenship, if you actually don't live here in Portugal, you can still not be considered a non-resident here. So this is an option. You will have the Portuguese citizenship, but you will not need to do any tax returns here in Portugal. Here in Portugal, the tax, if you are a tax resident in Portugal, what happens is that you have different categories, and of course the taxation will be done according to the type of income that you have. So dividends will be taxed at 1% at a certain percentage, and the other type of income at others. So it actually depends on what type of income you have. For example, if you now applied for the Portuguese Golden Visa program, if you buy a property, for example, and the property is in your name and the property generates income, you would pay, this is during the Golden Visa, so you would pay around 28% regarding the income generated by the property. So it would be necessary in that case to do a tax return here in Portugal. But if you invest, for example, in the investment fund option, then there would be no need to invest no need to do a tax return in Portugal. And this means that the dividends you would get from the investment fund, they would not be taxed in Portugal, but they would be taxed in your home country according to the tax legislation that applies there.
All right. Thank you so much, Alexander. There's another question from Anna. Is it possible to make property investment in co-ownership?
Yes, it is possible, but you need to comply with the minimum investment requirements. This means that, for example, if you buy, let's say, a property which is qualified as touristic here in Lisbon or near Lisbon, and the investment amount would be 500,000 euros as a requirement by law for one investor, you could buy a property which would be valued, for example, in 1 million, and you could have two investors for this. So it is possible to co-invest, but you always need to comply with the minimum investment requirements by law, because each process will be an individual process, but you are able to co-invest, yes.
All right, amazing. Thank you so much, Mr. Alexander. We are glad that you were here with us to share a few insights about Golden Visa. And now we would like to hear a few words from our next panelist about investment fund and the Golden Visa process. Our next panelist is Rahim Lakhani, who is here to discuss more about his newly launched fund 7X, the team's track record and his investment strategies. So Mr. Rahim is proud to present a 25 million euro venture capital fund named 7X, and which is a Golden Visa immigration solution managed by the Lakhani Capital SER. He's the president and CEO of the Lakhani Group, also a seasoned real estate investor that owns and operates a multi-dollar portfolio of properties in Portugal, Canada, USA, and in India. Mr. Lakhani holds a graduate degree in engineering from University of Waterloo, Canada, a postgraduate degree in real estate financing from Lisbon. He has worked extensively in European, American, Canadian, and Asian markets. He currently invests in the market of distressed assets and restructuring of companies in the advanced operational stages. Rahim, the forum is all yours.
Thank you very much, Afsana, and for that kind introduction. Also, thank you so much, Dr. Alex and Saadiya and Shiraz, Dr. Shiraz, I should say, to be present for the investment itself. What we'll do is we'll make a quick presentation just about the fund. So actually, if Afsana, you could go to the slide of the fund itself. We'll make a quick presentation on the fund and do a deep dive. So yeah, our team here is comprised of the management team by myself as the principal and asset manager. Alongside myself, we have Rahim Lakhani, who is the VP on compliance, also my sister, and Afsana Lakhani, she is our VP on sales, my wife, as well as my brother-in-law, who is our vice president on accounts. So as mentioned earlier, this is a family office, family-run operation, and our expertise is largely both in the spaces of real estate development as well as asset management in terms of largely in terms of private assets. And now with the launch of 7X, it will also be assets management for private investors who are wishing for their golden visa or not. So it is definitely open for both kinds of investments. So on the next slide, Afsana. Alongside us, we have the supervisory board as well, that is chaired by Dr. Joaquim Costa Lima, who has several years of experience with Ernst & Young, and now he runs his independent operations as an audit firm. We also have the other members of the board, as you can see on the screen, who have a lot of experience in the legal industry, in the financial space, in the auditing space, in the accounting space. So we're truly blessed to have a wonderful team guiding us and assisting us. And then finally, we also have an fund investment advisory board that consists of the people displayed on the screen, with a lot of experience in the Portuguese development scene, but also in the UK VC world, as well as from Dubai, and in the space of real estate development. So again, I must say that we're very happy to have an excellent team guiding us and supervising us on the fund management itself. So on the slides, you are now seeing a couple of things. One is our current assets. And now I want to make sure that it's understood that these assets that we have are private assets and currently under the Lakhani Group's management control. But this is to essentially just showcase to you that the Lakhani Group has had several assets under operational over the last 3.5 years that we have been in Portugal. Prior to this, we have done development in Canada, in the US, and prior to that in India. So over several years, we've had an excellent track record in terms of asset management, and now we'll also share with you what kind of assets we will be investing in through the fund. A lot of people have asked us, what is the name, what does the name mean? What does the logo mean, 7X? So very simply, our goal in asset management is that we want we do not want our investors' money to be sitting dormant. We want it to be producing a strong return 7 days a week, essentially. And of course, the X stands for excellence and in everything that we do. So very simply, that's the meaning of this. While also maintaining the fact that our target return on the fund is a 7% IRR. So I think very humbly, we showcase both of these aspects in our presentation. So on to the next slide. So a lot of folks have asked, well, this year there are so many funds that have been launched, and the fund market is a bit crazy. So why your fund? And I think I will not go too much into detail, but very simply I'll say no complex structures in our performance fee, and I'll explain why. And most importantly, for the investor that is actually looking for their golden visa, we have a very strong internal infrastructure and team that has done golden visa processing for hundreds of clients. So we are truly proud to say that our internal systems will result in a much faster processing time for your golden visa. So of course we do not control immigration authorities or whatever, but in terms of the documentation, in terms of the processing, we have a very rigid process in terms of the things that needs to be displayed to the investor and the things that needs to get done from, at least from our side. So that's what we take great pride in. This particular screen shows our license in the CMVM, which is the Portuguese regulator's website. So you can see our fund number is 1763, and we are a licensed entity. Which essentially means that we have the requirement, almost like-to-like requirement for what it would be for a publicly listed company, although this is considered as private equity venture capital. Okay. In the next slide, what I'll show in the next 4 slides actually is the investments that the 7X fund will be focused on. The first of which would be into the rehabilitation of the project, which is what we call Quinta de Porto Velho, which is a project just north of the city, about 10 to 12 minutes from the airport. The great part about this project is that this is still qualified under the Golden Visa program, even though this is in Lisbon. It is still at the 500,000 euro mark, minimum capital. And while this being luxury villas, these also have the touristic component, which means essentially all the features that you would see in a hotel will be delivered at this site. By the end of this year is the target to deliver all the villas with furniture and everything. So we definitely welcome all our investors to come out to Portugal or to do a virtual tour and to see for yourself, the great thing about this project. As of now, we have a lot of CPCVs done, and we welcome you to take an opportunity and do the purchase and sale agreement prior to the inventory being finished. We only have 36 in total in our phase 1, so we definitely welcome you to come and take a tour alongside just the villas itself. We have a clubhouse here on site with lots of amenities and a swimming pool and private swimming pool, tennis court. So a ton of amenities with restaurant and mini market and pharmacy. So this is a community center, community condominium on its own, which is fantastic for someone who is looking to retire in Portugal or to have a great calm and peaceful life, let's say post-COVID. So, and then some of the other investments are the most typical ones, which is a resort that we are looking actually out in the Algarve, a hotel, a standard hotel that is producing stable operational results, and have been, and there is opportunities for the restructuring of the management and increasing the RevPAR. And then we also invest in student housing operations. So we have identified land for a brand new construction of student housing. If anyone is curious on why we are in this industry, please feel free to send me a message, and I'll show you the statistics that have just recently come out from JLL that shows the great dire need for student housing as a strategic asset investment. On the screen now, you are also able to see our performance fee. Like I mentioned earlier, we do not have any complex structures. So in the fund liquidation year, as you can see, once the profit is dispersed at the year 7, which is what we have currently scheduled for, the first 30% is the initial disbursement remitted to the investor. Anything that is after that first 30% is then split 70-30 in the favor of the investors. So very, very simply, our hurdle rate over the 7-year period is 30%. And then anything after that is 70-30, while we charge a 1% AUM on an annualized basis. So very, very simple structure in terms of how the management is compensated. If we make a profit, we are compensated. If we don't, we're not. Next slide. So essentially, the numbers are in front of you. 500,000 if anyone is looking for a golden visa. The conversions for INR, USD, and dirhams is also given on your screen now. And it's a target 25 million euro venture capital fund, essentially for 50 golden visa investors at 500 each. And our target return is 7% with a hurdle rate of 30 and a split of 70-30. So keeping it very, very simple, and we've put our accounting and the custodian bank and the auditors all approved by the regulator. And then next slide. That's it. I think back over to you, Afsana.
All right. Thank you so much. Before we move on to our next panelist, there are a few questions that we would like to ask. So why do you think 7x is a better option as compared to the investors that are looking out in the market now that we have several funds launched? So while investing in the venture capital, what are your approaches towards catering to the diversification of it? So if you can shed some light on your investment fund.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a good question. One of the things that any investor should look at, regardless of where they are investing in a fund-related investment, is the management team behind it. And I think that is the utmost important thing, especially if you are investing in Portugal and there is a huge number of funds that are out there. So look at who you are investing in, because those are the people that will be making the final decisions on the strategic direction of the fund. So that's definitely something that you should be very careful of. And then you have to look at the track record, of course, which we currently have, and as well as how exposed the asset management team is to the international investments, right? So do they have knowledge and know-how of how to position themselves? Especially, everything is great when there's an up market, but you want to know how they hedge when there is a down market. So interview your asset manager, understand their psyche behind the investments, and get into a comfort zone before you cut the check, essentially.
All right. So can there be an exit strategy? Like, do your fund have an exit strategy that if one person no longer wants to have the golden visa, can the investor exit before the time?
Yeah, so this is actually a very good question, because a lot of funds in Portugal do not really have that exit. It is supposed to be an illiquid investment, but we all know that that is something that is very difficult for a lot of funds. However, the opportunity here is that we are both real estate developers as well as asset managers. And I think this is one of the things that we always keep in mind, that things do happen, events do happen. So we have actually planned for early investment criteria as well. So with a tiered. So if there is someone who is out there who does not want their golden visa or is in the need for interim funds prior to the exit and wants to terminate, we have several solutions that we can make proposals on. And yeah, I mean, most funds will simply just say no, but we're not one of those. And we will have a strategy planned out depending on the number of investors and depending on the term in which they want to exit. But we're not shut eye on that. We are totally open to having that conversation.
Okay. Amazing. Thank you so much for highlighting about your fund and taking some time out to answer our questions.
Welcome.
So let's move our gear towards another dynamic personality in our room, which is Mr. Shiraz Peer. So let me just have him here. Yes. So Mr. Peer has been running his own immigration firm, Peer & Co., for approximately 10 years now with his wife, Samreen Syed Peer. The company specializes in immigration law, representing a vastly diverse range of people needing advice, guidance, and legal counsel with many immigration-related issues. Mr. Peer's experience in running a business has allowed him with many opportunities to work with a large and diverse workforce. His personal maxim is to strive for excellence in all that he does, and he strongly believes in leading through example. So we are very proud to have Mr. Shiraz to our webinar.
Thank you for that introduction, and thank you for inviting me to this seminar. I'm very grateful. So yeah, thank you for that introduction. We've been running as an immigration law firm now for almost 17 years, and we specialize in mainly UK immigration. But over and above that, since 2013, we have been representing clients with regards to the Portugal Golden Visa. And I think I was with my initial speaker who spoke to us about the advantages of Portugal's Golden Visa, that it is the best program in the European market and has been the best program for investment by passport for quite a number of years. It's probably the most simplest program to get onto and has the least what I call fleas in terms of, like he said, Spain requires an actual residency in the country. So does a few other European countries with regards to their investments. You've got Cyprus, who are asking for almost 2.5 million with I think an exit clause of 1.5 million after 3 years, but you must keep 500,000 in an investment there forever. So Portugal has been our #1 Golden Visa investment program that we've had. We did have the UK Tier 1, what it was called the investor visa, but unfortunately, the government deleted that from the immigration rules sometime last week whilst we were in Portugal. They did it overnight in Parliament and then subsequently got rid of the £2 million investor visa. So I think that would be quite advantageous for a country like Portugal now to look at those potential investors who are probably looking to invest in the UK and get their Golden Visa program, which had a minimum of 181 days residency, etc., to maybe attract them to Portugal. To try to get those investments, and I think it's something that needs to be worked on. I think also with regards to Brexit, what I found is that there is a lot of British nationals who don't have access to a second passport or nationality. For example, some British nationals will have access to an Irish passport, which would give them European rights and free movements. But a lot of high net worth British clients simply do not have that opportunity to have an access to a second citizenship, taking into consideration the amount of time that they spend in Europe with their holidays, with their residencies, with work, etc. It is a market that needs to be tapped into with regards to British nationals applying to get onto the Golden Visa program by investment. So that's another market that we are currently looking at in terms of trying to boost the investment into the Portugal Golden market. When I first started doing Portuguese Golden Visa back in 2013-14, we were mainly concentrating at that time on direct property investments. But now with the change in the market with regards to fund investments, etc., I think this has really given the market some good fluidity in terms of giving the investors various options, because sometimes property investments directly, I find, are quite expensive in terms of the stamp duty, etc. So clients are these days very much price conscious and cost conscious in terms of getting into applications and getting into investments in the Portugal Golden Visa. We found this November, December, that in fact 90% of our clients decided to get onto the fund management rather than go into property investments directly. And that was solely because the fund was still at 350,000 euros and subsequently got increased on the 1st of January 2022. I must say that I don't really know whether I'm with the Portugal government in terms of increasing the fund investment. I think it was a bit of a shot in the foot. They shot themselves in the foot by increasing the investments, I think, from 350 to 500,000 investment funds, because it was such an easy investment to do. It was quite painless, it was quite smooth, and clients liked it because they got onto it. There was no transfer of property deeds. There was nothing. The investment was done. The applications for the staff, etc., were done soon after that. It was a very quick way of getting on. But clients are now, what I'm finding with my clients, mainly from South Africa, is they are turning around saying to me, well, Shiraz, what do you think? Why should we invest £500,000 into a high-risk investment fund, giving 7% when we can invest minimum £500,000 now into property directly? We don't mind having the cost of the stamp duty and paying that, but at least we can see our asset at 500,000. So I think from my perspective, and a lot of my clients are saying, well, investments funds are all very good, but why should we put 500,000 in there when we can own bricks and mortar and actually physically see our investment? So there is a little bit of shift in the market from our perspective and from our clients. Some of our clients enjoy the 280,000 euro investments, which is outside of Lisbon, in the Algarve, in terms of the hotel investments and stuff, because they're not really bothered about returns, etc. They really just want to get the citizenship and the residency and eventually get out. So most of my clients get into the Portugal Golden Visa program simply because 90% of my clients are from South Africa. Because of the social, economic, crime, degradation in South African society and the high crime rate and the recent riots and all sorts of things and the kidnappings of high net worth businessmen, they are just looking to have a comfort blanket at the moment that if something were to go extremely wrong, that they would then have that ability to be able to move to Portugal, settle their family, and maybe get on with their lives, because most of their assets and money and stuff sits outside of South Africa, in Geneva, in places like London, New York, Hong Kong. So I think a lot of them are doing it from that perspective, as opposed to wanting to actually live in Portugal a long time. But it is more of a comfort blanket investment. Other than that, as I said, I mean, the Portugal Golden Visa, in my experience over the last 6-7 years, has been the best program, and we don't sort of promote any other programs because they have too many anomalies in there, which clients are frankly just not happy about dealing with it. And Portugal Golden Visa program was probably the smoothest and the best way for investment. Also, what I would say is that a lot of my clients who have invested over the last 5, 6, 7 years into the Golden Visa program have really come out the other side, who are getting their passports and stuff and citizenships at the moment. In fact, getting the entire passport and the investment, including all of the costs and everything, they're basically getting it for free because they've made equity in their properties, they've made equity in their investments, taking into consideration all of the costs. They're coming out with an average of €250,000 in profit after the 5 or 6 years in terms of investment in Portugal. So for them, it's been a win-win situation, basically getting the passport for free and coming out with an extra €250,000 on average with regards to investments. I mean, that's really my take in regards to how we are currently operating with clients in the Golden Visa. I just want to say one small matter I'd like to raise here is that I find that the difference between different law firms in the way they work in terms of the relevant documentary evidence that's required to make an application to CEF varies quite dramatically between different lawyers. Some are insisting that these documents must be fully dated within 3 months, birth certificates have to be reissued, criminal records have got to be apostilled. There are other lawyers that take a slightly different, more relaxed view because I think they have a better understanding with CEF in terms of what documents needs to. So I think when engaging with clients, it's very important that you pick the right lawyers who are not going to harass your clients, but are more going to be helpful in terms of being able to be more flexible in terms of asking CEF to consider a set of documents, and if they need something else to come back to the clients. Because I think the clients sitting overseas sometimes get frustrated with the amount of documentary evidence in the format that the Portuguese government wants it. I can understand the translations, etc., but then getting criminal record checks from South Africa can take up to 3 to 6 months. But by the time you get one, the other one's expired. So they're asking you to get another one and another one. It's a constant chase. You're chasing your tail all the time to try and keep up with the up-to-date documents. I think that's something that needs to be looked at. But overall, I mean, over the years between the 35 and 45 clients that we've put onto Golden Visa Portugal over those years, we've not really had any complaints, and most of the clients have been extremely happy. So that's where I am with the Golden Visa. If you have any questions in regards to our operation, what we do, and we're very happy to try and start working with the Lakhani group. I met Rahim and his wife very recently, one of my visits in Portugal. I literally texted him on LinkedIn when I was leaving London on the airport, and I said to him, I'm landing in a couple of hours and I'll be staying a couple of days, and could you perhaps meet up? And he was very keen, and he set up the meeting quite quickly, and we had a very good meeting. I think he met one of my clients and spent a day with him on the Saturday. And we hope to forge a good long-term working relationship with the Lakhani group. So thank you again for inviting me. If there's any questions you'd like me to answer, I'd be happy to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Shiraz, for your kind words. It was a pleasure to meet you as well. And yes, we do have a few questions for you, and it's about Brexit. So while I was living in London, Brexit happened, and it was the talk of the town. So wanted to know that how has been the demand for Portuguese golden visa, or like European citizenship per se, with regards to British there, and are they looking to have a second passport, given that now the travel restrictions are maybe like, an implication?
Yes, I mean, that is the question of the decade. I mean, firstly, I'd just like to say that Brexit was again, shooting yourself in the foot. It was something that we are severely now suffering the consequences of Brexit, with a shortage of staff in all sectors of the economy. Right from pickers and packers on the farms, right to skilled migrant workers, to truck drivers. You've seen the recent situations that Britain has gone through. But, I always kept in mind that never underestimate the British voters' ability to cut their nose to spite their face. And I think it wasn't done in the right spirit in terms of Brexit, and now they're feeling the repercussions of that. But in terms of British nationals, high net worth nationals looking for second citizenship, I think there's a huge call for it out there, but I think it hasn't been mined. It hasn't been properly scoped out. It hasn't been properly looked at, but there is a huge call, I think, for that. But it's about getting the idea out there that you can indeed invest in a different type of Portugal, in a different type of passport by investment program, making them understand what that is. Because here in the United Kingdom, unfortunately, over the last few months and since Brexit has taken place, there's been a very sort of negative press reviews about Portugal's golden visa, both from the independent papers. The Times has written a couple of articles, nothing fantastic about it. And I think that has dampened the mood in terms of whether the Brits should actually invest and go for the second passports. A lot of people were accused during the time of Brexit, very well-known people, that, you promoted Brexit, but now you're going to apply for a French passport, or you're applying for a Portuguese, or you're applying for a German passport. I think these things brought a very big, huge negative connotation within society about obtaining second visas. And as you can see, they canceled their own passport by investment program with the tier 1 investor visas. So I think that we need to overcome, firstly, the negative atmosphere that's here in the United Kingdom in terms of passport by investment programs, and try to promote the Portugal, because I think Portugal will probably be the most attractive opportunity for those British high net worths who require a second passport to be able to firstly maintain their free movement rights within Europe, not to be able to worry about travel restrictions, going through different queues, because now you have to queue up with the rest of the world, whereas before we just walked through the EU queues, it wasn't that much. You could go through the electronic machines. You can't actually do that anymore as a British citizen traveling into Europe. So with all of this happening, and the more the Brexit implications continue to raise its ugly head, I think we as a group here today should look at how we are going to take advantage and try to take advantage of that particular market that's open wide in terms of looking for people to invest in the golden visa program. So I think there is a huge opportunity there, and it's something that we must explore together as a group.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think now that you highlighted about British, I think there might be other nationalities as well looking for a second passport. So you mentioned South Africa. Apart from that, do you sense any other countries that demand for Portugal golden visa?
Well, the Russians were very interested in it, but I think with everything going on at the moment, I think every European country who has a golden visa program is probably going to shy away from the Russian thing. I know initially the Chinese were very big in the uptake with regards to the golden visa at some point in time, but at the moment, the South Africans are the biggest inquiries and uptakers of the golden visa program now in Portugal. I can't think offhand of any other nationalities that would be very keen at the moment. There must be, I'm sure. Maybe the Iranians. I know we have some Iranian clients where we couldn't perhaps open up, or we had the bank accounts opened and then they were subsequently closed within 48 hours. No reasons given. So that kind of dampened the mood with regards to some of our Iranian clients. But Iranian clients here in the United Kingdom and those directly from Iran are quite keen to get onto the Portugal Golden Visa. So that's another country that we need to look at and maybe try to explore and see how we can sort of get the message out to these countries. It's a huge job. It can't be done by one person. And so I think those are really the countries at the moment that will probably give us the best business and best investments, because they have the money. The Iranians both have the money. South Africans, high net worth business people, have a lot of money outside of South Africa and are looking for those comfort blankets. I think wherever there's political instability, people tend to then look for different residencies and passport programs around the world. The one that I have shied away over the years from was the Caribbean passport programs on offer, not because for any other reason, but I just think that a lot of them find, it's basically a donation of certain amounts of hundreds of thousands of dollars to be able to get a passport within 3 to 6 months, and that allows you to travel throughout the 180 countries. But I think it's quite a risky investment of just handing over $200,000 for a passport. I don't know whether it's worth it, because you don't get residency in a European country, and a lot of my clients are not really quite keen in terms of living or going to the Caribbean because they have no history of going there. So that's one of the programs that I haven't promoted much because I don't have a call for it at all.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Shiraz, for allowing us to ask the questions and highlighting a few issues about the visa programs. Thank you so much for being here. We're very pleased to have you.
Thank you.
Moving on to our next and final panelist, Saadiya Saadat. So Ms. Saadiya Saadat is the founder and MD of Secondpass Global, a boutique citizenship and residency by investment company based out of Dubai, UAE. Ms. Saadat holds a master's degree in business administration and has over 25 years of work experience in the Middle East. Prior to starting Secondpass Global, she has held several senior banking positions with HSBC, Middle East, Fab Bank, Mashreq Bank, and ANZ Bank. To pursue her passion in real estate design and investment, Ms. Saadat also holds a diploma in interior design from NDA, UK, and has been a certified RERA broker practicing in Dubai in the early 2000s. But last but not the least, having lived so long in the Middle East and driven by her desire to contribute to her country of birth, Pakistan, Ms. Saadat has served as DG Marketing, Punjab Board of Investment and Trade, PBIT. In this pioneering role, she has contributed to the government of Pakistan by establishing its first provincial investment program to attract foreign direct investment, FDI, in Punjab, the biggest province of Pakistan. In Ms. Saadat's own words, while her full-time focus and energies are fully occupied with Secondpass Global, no dream is too big to achieve and no job is too petty to do. Just believe in yourself. So here we have the spokesperson itself. So let me give the forum to you, Ms. Saadat. Here you go.
Thank you, Afsana. Thank you, Rahim, for inviting today. And definitely a very interesting panel so far. And thank you for all the panelists. It's been a pleasure listening to you. From my perspective, I would like to, we have covered most of the things from legal, investment, and other perspectives. So I would like to bring in the customer angle. Most of our clients are from the subcontinent and the Middle East. And we do offer over 20 programs, but the clients who are looking for a future for their children, education, healthcare, everything, Portugal is their answer. So Portugal is very, very popular amongst the Middle Eastern and the subcontinent clientele. In that, basically, we talk about now I would like to just cover the timelines because we've covered the investment types. There are funds, there are hospitality projects, there are projects outside, inside the cities. Rahim has covered the fund that he has launched and the property angle to it. So no, I guess there's no point repeating that. So a lot of clients keep on asking, what happens? How does the process work? When will I get my card? So the bottom line is, when do they become a resident? When do they become a citizen? These are the questions. So I'd just like to cover one slide, Sana, which I've sent you, if you
Yes.
can just put it up.
Yes, I'll do that.
Okay, so just to, as I said, we do over 20 programs, and I would say in terms of paperwork, the most paper intensive are the Caribbeans, and then the USA, and then Malta, of course. But Portugal is a very simple and easy program in that sense that customer involvement, and now with the COVID, a lot of benefits have been given to the client in Portugal. Basically, the client selects the property in month 1. He signs with the lawyer. The lawyers, without visiting Portugal, the lawyers, he gives the power of attorney to the lawyers. The lawyers issue him a tax number and open his bank account. Very few minimal documents are required. When this is achieved, it can take a month and a half. The account is set up. Then the client funds his account. The main requirement here is that whatever the investment amount is, whether it be 280 or 350 or 500, that has to come from the client's account. That when the account is funded, again, the lawyers have the power of attorney. The client does not need not come. If they want to come, of course they can, but everything is done remotely. They fund the account, lawyers have the power of attorney, they purchase the property and submit the documents to SEF. And that takes around 2 more months. And I think Shiraz covered it. The only, or maybe Alex did, maybe I'm missing this, but the only time-sensitive element here is back and forth when we go, because birth certificates expire in 1 month, and by the time we submit, if it's expired again, we have to go back to the client and ask them to attest them from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and from the Portuguese Embassy. So basically, that is the main issue there on the document, but only 2-3 documents are required. Again, a very simple process from the client perspective. And obviously, the bulk of the work is done by lawyers like Alex, where I'm sure Alex would know there's validation calls, there are reading the contracts, there are registering them at the notary public. All this is done, shared with client and done for them. Then after that, the SEF application is submitted online, and then we wait for the SEF's approval. When the SEF approves the application, the client goes, the client is asked to come for biometrics. This is around 5 months' time, and then the SEF approves the cards, and the client either can collect it personally, or the lawyers can also mail it to them. So most of our clients like to go at this stage because they use this time to complete their 7 days minimum stay requirement. And that's where basically the time starts now. And so now from when the cards are issued for 2 years, and then year 3 they will renew it, and then year 5 they will renew it, 2 years renewal, and then they can apply for passports. Now, because of COVID, there's been recently, I think a week back, the government has given another benefit for the client. And I think Portuguese government is the most understanding of the client issues and the difficulties the investors are facing. They said, okay, if your card expired and you have applied for renewal, but you are not able to travel, your expired card is still valid for another 2 years for you to be able to enter. So this is a very client-friendly, customer-friendly thing, and Portuguese government is encouraging the investment. So I do understand the amounts have increased, but this year the amounts have increased. And last year we were all working day and night in December trying to close the fund deals, trying to sell as much as we could because everybody wanted to book their investment in a lower amount. But even at a 280 or 350 or 500, it is still a very, very reasonably priced program for EU residency and citizenship. Because when you compare it, because we do 20 programs, so I know that there's nothing out there comparable. Malta starts from €1 million plus donation, in a way donation. And this is really your own investment and a beautiful country to come to. So it's a no-brainer. And I see a lot of clients with the unrest in the Middle East, in the subcontinent, this region, they are really looking for plan B. And our clients are very, very well educated. You'd be surprised that they've done their homework. They know what they're talking about. And the savviest of them come and tell us, well, we love it. It's a no-brainer. Just do our processing. We want to start. So this is from the client perspective. I would like to, since there are people attending who would like to invest, who are prospective clients, any questions they have, any concerns they have because these timelines are based on an experience in the last 1 year, I would say. Things have been different. In COVID, the timelines were different. Post-COVID, pre-COVID, it's different. So this we put together based on actual timelines. People say 3 to 6 months or 4 months, but realistically, this is what we have experienced at Secondpass Global. I mean, Alex or Shiraz can add to it. You are obviously the lawyers, you are processing, but this is our experience from the Middle East on the times that we have experienced.
Thank you so much, Ms. Saadat. Yes, Mr. Shiraz, do you want to add something?
No, Saadiya, thank you very much for that. I mean, your insight into the golden visa is excellent and your experiences you're having. I would like to just add further to what Saadiya said, that Portugal is probably the only country in Europe that I find that does not have a xenophobic attitude towards immigrants coming to the country. I think it's the most welcoming country. The people are fantastic. The place is just unbelievable. Every time I come, I'm thinking I should just relocate, set my office up there and continue to work from there. It's such a brilliant place to work and to live, and the people are so fantastic. And I think that is the thing that needs to be sold constantly for Portugal, is that there really isn't any anti-immigration, no xenophobic issues go on within Portugal, not that I've experienced in the last 7 years with any of my clients or being anywhere in Portugal. I think they're very much relaxed. I think the place is fantastic. I think it offers a good quality of life for those people who want to actually come and live on the golden visa, stay there. There's international schools, there's English schools, there's so much there to offer. And I always maintain that it's the best program on the market. So yeah, I think I'm with you. I think CEF needs to just sort of up its game a little bit in terms of the timelines that they're offering for CEF appointments, especially for biometric appointments, in that you can't actually guarantee an appointment. They basically open CEF office and leave it open from Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and you're sending paralegals to wait in the queue to see whether you get a biometric appointment. You can't have your clients waiting in limbo 3-4 days whether they'll get an appointment for biometrics or not. I think CEF needs to up their game and go back to the system where they were giving confirmed appointments, because these are high net worth clients that we're dealing with, and they're traveling all around the world. They have very busy schedules. They don't have time to come and sit in Portugal for 5 days waiting in limbo whether you're going to get a CEF appointment or not. I think that's at the moment one of the slight disappointments, but that's not the program disappointment. That is the Home Office.
I agree, Shiraz. That's why that's why I thought the key is sharing the timeline, which we have experienced, because once the client invests, they are like always asking every day, when is my card coming? So everybody's promising 3 to 6 months, but the reality is what I've shared.
Open and they put the money in the bank account. They want to know from that day, when is my biometric card coming? I think we have to manage it.
That's why I'm sharing it with everybody. And to add to what you said, as I said, our clients are from the Middle East, from the subcontinent, Portugal. is ideal climate for them, the food, the friendliness of people. It's the cheapest European country with good standard of living.
Good
And
standard
to
of
add
living, quality food,
good
you know,
quality food,
fantastic.
friendly people.
Mhm.
And to add to it, the biggest benefit I see is even myself and my husband, we are from Pakistan. I hold another Caribbean passport, but we've been thinking when we retire, we should retire in Portugal because it has free healthcare. Shiraz, it has free healthcare.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. You know, my friends in the Silver Coast who are developers, and they've been developing and put a lot of clients, and every time I go, they ask me, when are you buying a unit? Just live here, bring the family, stay here. There's an international school. You don't need to go back to UK and live in that rat race that we currently live in the UK. And yeah, Portugal is definitely a destination for even high net worth Brits to say, look at it as a retirement, even if you don't want to get on the golden visa.
Exactly.
Get some money.
And that is why it is considered the retirement home for most of the Brits and the French and all the Europeans.
Yes,
and it is ideal, the climate, for health reasons at elderly age, people want peace, healthcare, everything which is available. So yes, it is the ideal if you're thinking long-term to settle for your children and for yourself in your old age. Nothing better to put your money and bet on Portugal. So that's what I have to say.
I back that 100% with Portugal. I don't think I'd get my clients to put money anywhere else at the moment.
All right. I think Alex is blushing by hearing all the comments. What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, I totally agree, because you know what people today what they look for is actually safety, and this is Portugal is one of the safest countries in the world. So it's a very small. I mean, it's a small country. We are like 10 million, around 10 million people. Of course, some more are coming in. But there are not big conflicts, like no wars, no. Actually, it's also a very safe country right now that we see this this problem with Russia and Ukraine. We are very far away from the old problems that could occur based on that development. So Portugal is it's just the best country in Europe for myself. That's why I live here as well. And of course,
Alexandra, I mean, you are absolutely spot on. And you know, Portugal is the only European country that had a bloodless revolution. When things are taken over, there's no bloodshed throughout that. And that has come through the centuries with Portugal. It's not a violent country. The crime rate is extremely low. You can walk quite safely in Lisbon at all times of the night, which I've experienced, and you don't really experience any, you don't feel unsafe in Lisbon at all for any reason whatsoever. I think people just...
and also a very welcoming country. So there is no like any nationality, any citizenship, any person. It doesn't matter if you know, if they are rich, if they are not. Like, everyone is really welcome here, and that's why that's actually the strong point of Portugal. And also the connections. If someone is thinking of business, the connections to Brazil or to Africa, it's seen as a bridge to those countries. And I think in the coming years it will just continue growing, advancing. I also agree regarding your comments, Shiraz, regarding the CEF, because it should get more organized. They should just find a solution to make everything more automatic, to have more people working, because actually since the program started in 2012, they weren't expecting so many people coming into the country. So the first applications were running well, but then they wait, now we have renewals. And when they have the renewals and the first application and then again renewals of another year, it was just too much for them, and it's kind of still is. So I think the point which they could really work on is just the timelines, and then it would be, it's already the best program, but then it would be perfect. So
you're right.
Absolutely. I think, Rahim, you're echoing.
Sorry, my bad. Still? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, better.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that, Alex. While you were saying this, could you maybe touch based on the fact that there has been some reorganization on CEF and how that could change things around, if you know anything on that note?
So actually what we are waiting right now is a new regulation regarding so once the new government is chosen, there will be new regulations with this new types of and amounts of investments that will come into force. So it's not yet regulated. So in the portals itself, there are some comments right now still pending in a pending status for this to enter in force. I know that since the minister was let's say he quit his position, that there were some changes and some positive changes done. So for example, in the end of the last year, the Minister of Justice, which is the provisory person handling the situation, she finally started to enable the investors to book their appointments in a chronological order. So the last years, it was always a struggle for the lawyers to get the appointment because it was first come, first served way. So the lawyers actually were sitting for hours in front of the portal to try to book interview, the biometric interview for the investors. But now finally CEF saw that it was a big mess, and now they organized it. So they are giving the opportunity to the investors to make their booking according in a chronological order. So this was a very big release also for the lawyers, because the lawyers were just getting so many emails of investors that invested, and the process was just taking so long. And you know, they want to know what's happening with their process and with their investment. So this was a very good step, I think, in the right direction. But still there is some internal organization with things which they could work on harder, you know, hire more people, because I mean, it's still a high net worth client investing a lot of money, and they can't just wait the longer or the same time as a normal immigrant which comes to Portugal based on another type of residence permit. So this actually is something that they will have to look into. I think they might do this now once the new government is chosen, because it's also good for them. So they see the amount of money which is coming in, and actually it's just something that all the entities and all the participating firms and are winning. So I don't see why they shouldn't work on this.
Okay. Thank you so much, Alex.
Alex, was the CEF application online as recent edition, correct?
Sorry, once again.
The CEF online applications, that is a recent, again, an improvement.
Yes. So the first, yes, it's again. So the first step usually is the online approval, where you just upload all the documentations, and then it takes around 2 months or a bit less for them to notify you and give you an option for the biometric interview. And once you pick that date, then usually the clients, they come here and they go to the biometric interview. And actually, this is the first real moment when it's necessary for the client to fly to Portugal. So this is also an important point. If the spectators, if they have doubts about flying to Portugal, it's only at that moment when you really have to come. And now, since the beginning of the month, Portugal has actually banished the necessity of a PCR test to enter Portugal, and I think now everything will go more efficient here.
Alex, one last question. Can you elaborate? The government has just announced that expired card people can enter Portugal if they have applied. At the immigration counters, how are they going to handle this? Are they equipped? Do the immigration officers know? Because when our client goes and he shows the card, it will show expired. What do they need to, what is your advice? What should the client take with them so that they are not returned from the borders?
Yes, so that's a good question. It's also a bit hard because it depends on the specific situation of the client. But usually, for example, if the client has the residence permit and it's not valid anymore, the lawyers usually they should already check to renew it like 2 months before or 3 months before. And once they do this application for the renewal of the card, they will get a paper, and usually with a QR code in which they can show together with the old residence permit. Of course, the entities here in Portugal are aware that that everything is taking a bit longer, also because of COVID. Yes, I mean, bringing the residence permit with them is already a good point, showing that they applied for the renewal, so that they are enrolled in the renewal of the residence permit, would be the other suggestion. And what I've seen that that the government has done here in Portugal is that they say, okay, we have now with COVID, everything is slower, and we have a much higher requests here at CEF. So we will just let the residence permits have a validity of some more months. So they, even though they are expired, they are aware that it's taking much longer to renew them, and by law they are considering that they are actually still valid. So they are pretty safe to come to Portugal in that situation.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Alex, for sharing your thoughts. Thank you, Saadiya, for bringing this to the forum to be catered. So finally, thank you so much to all the panelists, the attendees, and the amazing team behind making this webinar a success. I hope it was an insightful and educational one for everyone. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.